So, let's talk about generative AI. It's everywhere and it feels like straight up magic sometimes, right? But what if I told you it's not magic at all? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain and I'll show you exactly how it works so you can go from being amazed by it to actually mastering it.
All right, so let's jump right in with a super cool example you've probably seen lighting up your social media feeds, the Instant Room Makeover.
Yeah, you've definitely seen stuff like this. On the left, you've got a pretty plain-looking room. And on the right, boom, the exact same room totally transformed by AI in just seconds. And this isn't some simple photo filter. No way. This is a really powerful technique called in-painting. The AI literally repaints the inside of the image just based on a simple command from you like, hey, make this room look minimal and modern. It's an incredible display of what this tech can create.
But that cool room makeover? That's a specific kind of AI. It's really important to know there are two main flavors out there. On one side, you've got predictive AI. Its job is to look at data that already exists and make a consistent guess, like sorting your customers into different groups. But what we're talking about today is generative AI. This is different. It doesn't just analyze things, it creates something brand new, something that didn't exist before, like writing a unique, personalized email to every single one of those customer groups.
So the big question is, how does this AI brain actually work? How does it just invent a new room design or a totally new email out of thin air?
Well, the engine behind all of this magic is something called a large language model, or LLM for short. And if you've ever used a tool like ChatGPT, then you've already talked to an LLM. It's that core technology that's able to understand what you're asking and then generate a response that sounds human. Probably the best way to picture an LLM is to think of it like a giant digital library. I mean, imagine it's read a huge chunk of the public internet, all the books, all the articles, all the websites. All of that knowledge is packed inside, forming its brain.
So at its very core, it's basically a super-powered prediction machine. When you ask it something like, the capital of Thailand is, it doesn't know the answer like you or I do, not at all. Instead, it scans that massive library and calculates the most statistically likely word to come next. In this case, Bangkok. Then it does it again for the next word and the next and the next, stringing them all together into what looks like a real sentence.
Okay, so that sounds pretty smart, right? But what happens when that giant library has some books missing? Or worse, what if some of the books are just flat out wrong? This is where you start to see the cracks.
The thing is, just like a real library, its knowledge isn't perfect. Some of its books are super old, and it literally has zero clue about anything that happened after it was created. And this leads to two huge problems you've probably already run into.
First up, you've got hallucination. This is when the AI just makes stuff up. I mean, it states something that's totally false, but it says it with so much confidence. That's because its main job is to always give an answer. So if it doesn't know, it'll just invent something that sounds plausible. And then you got the cutoff date. This is a big one. The AI's knowledge is basically flash frozen on the day its training stopped.
And for a lot of the big models you might use, their world pretty much ended sometime in 2023. So, try asking it about who won a recent championship or what happened in the news last week, and it's going to draw a blank. It just doesn't have that info in its library.
So this brings up a huge question, right? How do developers fix this? They can't possibly retrain these monster models every single day. Well, it turns out they have a really clever trick up their sleeve. And that trick is called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. And let me tell you, this technique is a total game changer, because it gives the AI a way to look at information that wasn't in its original training data.
So let's go back to that library idea. Instead of the impossible job of updating the entire massive library, which costs a fortune and takes forever, RAG is basically like letting the AI check out a new book. You just hand it a fresh newspaper or a specific report that has exactly the info it needs, right when it needs it.
Okay, so check this out. Imagine you ask about something private, something the public internet would never know, like what was our company's revenue last quarter? A standard LLM would have no clue. But with RAG, the system first goes and finds that specific financial report, that's the borrowed book. It quickly reads the key facts and then feeds them to the LLM, which can now give you a perfect, accurate answer based on information it literally didn't have 1 second ago. This is exactly how it can also answer questions about current events, by borrowing the latest info from the live internet.
Okay, so now that you've peeked behind the curtain and you get how it works, let's talk about your toolkit. Because understanding how the AI thinks is really the secret to making it do what you want.
Now that you get that the AI is just trying to give you the best answer based on the info it has, you can see why your prompt, the way you ask your question, is everything. Giving it clear context, specific details, and telling it what not to do is the most effective way to guide it. Your prompt is your power.
A lot of these AI tools also give you this other cool dial to play with, and it's called temperature. Think of it like a creativity knob. Turn it down low, and the answers get super factual, really focused, maybe a little stiff. Crank it all the way up, and you're telling the AI to get creative, go wild, and take some risks. And somewhere in the middle, that's usually the sweet spot for getting something that's both useful and imaginative.
All right, so let's wrap this all up. What are the big takeaways? Generative AI isn't magic, it's a tool. It works by predicting the next word based on a huge library of info. But that library has limits, which leads to problems like making stuff up or having old news. The key fix for that is a trick called RAG, which lets it borrow new information. And most importantly, you are in the driver's seat, using your prompts and settings like temperature to control the outcome. And that really leaves us with a huge, kind of mind-blowing question for the future. We've just seen that we can give AI access to basically all of human knowledge in real time. So the next big challenge isn't just about giving it more information. It's about teaching it how to think. So the question isn't just about what the AI knows anymore. It's about what it can learn to do with that knowledge. Can it actually learn to reason for itself?